If you're learning guitar, then learning how to practice is perhaps the most important thing that you need to learn, because too many of us will sit down with our guitar and just start noodling away, right? Or playing a song that we already know how to play well. The main thing is to set a schedule or a to-do list and do it. Sit down and make sure you play the things that you're not good at yet. And so what might those things be? So let's learn how to practice. What we're doing on Patreon this week is we're creating a series of practice routines at different levels. And so here in this YouTube video, I'm going to give you one of those. And that way, if your guitar teacher is away for a couple weeks, you know exactly what to practice. First, we want to warm up the fingers. So pick whatever pentatonic shape you happen to be practicing, but keep in mind you can just adapt this for whatever skill shape you are currently doing. And we're going to play alternate picking down, up, down, up. So I'm just going to do easy shape for now because this is our level 1. Next, we want to identify where the roots are because it's not enough to just memorize the pentatonic shapes. We need to know where those roots are. So very quickly, we're going to find there's the root A for A minor pentatonic. We know that one because that's where we found it. And then we're going to find that A up an octave. We can see it from the octave shape, but we want to just know where it is instantly. We know this one because they're both E strings, so they're both A's, and so there's the 3 in that shape. We're going to do another one in a bit. Next is to make sure that we really know these shapes, but also to develop our physical skill because guitar isn't just mental stuff, right? It's also very physical. We're going to do some patterns. So let's start with the easy one. The easy one is ascending, and I call it up 4, back 1. What that means is you play 4 notes up the scale and you just go back 1 step. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, back 1 step. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, you can choose a different pattern, whatever one that you're working on these days. Just make sure you are practicing patterns, right? You can try it with a metronome if you want. The main thing is to make sure that you are playing it smoothly and gradually get it faster. But don't play it so fast that it's just sloppy. There's no point in that. And then let's do a descending one. I love a descending one in 3s. I just think it sounds really cool. And we hear this one, pieces of this one, in lots of great solos. It sounds like this. Now, next step is to play what I call a run. But basically, these are common ways to shift through the pentatonic shapes to move us up the fretboard quicker. You could see my video called Fly Up the Fretboard that's here on YouTube. But let's do run number 1, since run number 1 crosses through our minor pentatonic easy shape, but it starts below that, right? It starts just in the shape below. So in this case, we would be on the low E string and we would go 3-5 and then 3-5 and then slide. And we noticed that we ended in the extension shape up there. So whenever we're crossing through a new pentatonic shape or whenever we're working on a pentatonic shape, we always got to remember also where the roots are, right? So we knew before we had a root there in our easy shape and a root there and a root there, but we also have a root in extension shape that's on the B string, in this case 10th fret. Now, to further develop the physical side of playing guitar, we want to practice what I call switchbacks. I don't know if there's really a word for it, but I call them switchbacks because it works. And this is in tons of guitar solos. You will see loads of pros do this all the time, like Slash does this. And what it means is when we're climbing a scale and we want to switch back a string without having to go scale-wise back through the scale, we could just jump the finger, but it's just not very efficient. And so what we commonly do is we use the other finger that we have available. In this case, it's the second finger. That's almost always the second finger. Always the second finger? I can't remember. It's probably always the second finger. It looks like this. And to practice that, we just apply it to everywhere on the run number 1 where we have a span of 2 frets. And that's quite a lot of places. And you may have noticed that that whole run ended on the root again, right? We can hear that. We want to get our ear used to hearing that landing on the run. Next up, for whatever pentatonic shape you're working in, we want to memorize where are the most common places to bend, because if we are doing some pure improv for a moment, meaning like we're not playing a memorized lick, we want to know what we can do with the notes that we have under our fingers. And so if we know where the common places to bend are, we can always turn anything that might otherwise just be scale-wise and boring into something cool because we know where the bends are, right? So in easy minor pentatonic, those favorite bends are on the G string, 3rd finger, the B string, that would be 3rd finger usually too, and the high E string, 3rd finger as well. That makes sense not only because we would much prefer to bend a note with our 3rd finger than, say, our 1st. Now, we can do that, but 3rd finger bends are much more common because our 3rd finger is so much stronger. But also, those notes are very important because they resolve to interesting tones in the scale, right? If we bend that one on the G string, we could actually bend that a whole step or a half step. If we bend it a half step, that's the sound of the blue note, right? Because the blue note is a half step above right there. And we can also bend that a whole step, which is very common. And what does that pitch go to? It goes to the 5th of the key. So it sounds great against an A chord or an A minor chord, doesn't matter. It's the 5th of that key, and it's gonna have a cool resolving sound. So what about that B string bend? We want to bend that one a whole step because that is going up to what note? We looked at that just a little while ago. It's going up to 2 frets above would be the root in the extension shape, right? So we're bending the minor 7 to the root to put it in a technical way, but mostly we just want to be able to hear that that's resolving to the chord, to the root of the chord, to the root of the key. And the last most common bend in this easy shape is on the high E string, and that's going to bend also a whole step up. So while we're at it, we might as well identify where all the blue notes are in that shape, right? We bent to that blue note, but of course we can also play it. It's there. But we also have a blue note lower down in that shape. It's right here. That is such a good one to pass through, right? We pass through that one all the time in anything that's kind of blues rock or even just classic rock. And we have a tricky one. This is like a secret blue note that most people don't play. It's on the B string and it's 1 fret down from where our 1st finger normally is. It's the same one that we have on the G string. It's just like in a kind of more hidden place that a lot of people don't use, but it's a great one because we can just slide from it up a fret to the 5th fret, which is the 5th of that key, and then we could just play whatever lick after that. It's a good move. And the next step is 8, 9, number 9, 10, I don't remember, doesn't matter. What we're gonna do is we're gonna play 3 memorized licks. It's because we should have at least 3 memorized licks for every pentatonic shape that we know, that we're playing in, so that we have some go-to licks that we can use. We don't have that moment of panic. At the very least, we can play a couple of memorized licks before we move around and do some other things. Now, if you don't have 3 memorized licks, we've got lots on our Patreon, but I'll give you 3 right here. Here's one. What I like about that one is it uses these 2 notes at the 5th fret in a more unique way. You'll find it in some classic rock songs, but usually what people will do is they'll go up, but I like going back down again. Why not? It gives us that 1 extra note, and it's just a cool melody, right? And that's one of our favorite bends. Here's another lick. I really like to slide from above back into easy shape. We could do that from almost any string, but a really common one to do is from the G string. So we would be sliding from, that's essentially extension shape. But really, I'm not even thinking of extension shape. I'm just thinking of moving up 2 frets from easy shape and very quickly sliding back into easy shape. Put a funky rhythm to it, maybe put a tiny little bend on this guy here. Just like a quarter step bend to make it a little more greasy, right? And we got some staccato ending with that double hit. It's a pretty cool lick. Let's do one more. Remember that blue note that I told you, the kind of hidden one that's under here on the B string, 4th fret? Let's start a lick there. That's a really good move. And then if there's a blue note there, and there's a blue note there, the one that we normally play, we can mix and match those blue notes, and it just creates this really interesting sound that is resolved eventually. Now, the second to last step of your practice routine is to put on a jam track, but most importantly, before you just start jamming away and having fun, you have to give yourself at least one goal. What do I mean by that? Is that you have to give yourself a goal like, I'm gonna land most of my licks on the root. Why? Because then it forces us to get to know and really memorize where those roots are and to practice that skill. Or you could say, I'm gonna land at least 3 licks on the 5th, like that. Because again, now we're using that practice time, we're using that jam track to really learn something, right? Because too often we'll put on a jam track and then we just keep playing the things that we already know how to do well. And then the last step is have fun. So maybe that is to just jam with the jam track, or maybe that is to start working on a song that you love to play, or play a song that you already know how to play well. It doesn't matter, because remember, the main point of playing guitar is to become a guitar god? No, because it's unlikely. To impress other people? I mean, yeah, but it's not the best goal, right? The main reason is to have fun, so we want to do that. But we do find that if we're not progressing, generally we're not having as much fun, right? So that's why we have this practice routine, like the many others that I'm gonna have on Patreon over the next couple weeks. This one is level 1, we're gonna do a level 2, we're gonna do a level 3, we're gonna do a level 4, well, we'll see how many we have. And guess what? You can join Patreon for free for 7 days, so you kinda have nothing to lose. So I hope to see you over there. My name is Blue Morris, and I teach guitar lessons here and on Patreon. And this is in Vancouver. That's on the internet. You know what I mean. I'll see you over there.